Radio for Teens. I'm Bia, and as you guys all know, or if you're new to the show, I'd like to explain to you what the show is about. Cardiac Radio for Teens is a place where teens, like me and you, can talk to teens. It's a place where every week we talk about a different topic, but if you guys have any specific topics or questions that you'd like to ask, you can email me at cardiacradioforteens@gmail.com, and I'll answer to you really quickly. As teens, and even as adults and when we're older, we always tend to hold grudges. Some people hold more grudges than other people. But why do we hold grudges? Why can't we just forgive? And maybe sometimes we say, oh, it's fine. Someone says they're sorry, and we say it's fine. But really, it's bothering us and eating away at us. When we said it's fine, we didn't truly forgive them. So what does it mean to truly forgive someone, or how do you do it, or why? Why can't we just hold grudges all the time? Well, hopefully we can work through that together and figure some of those things out. So what does it really mean to forgive someone? What does it mean to forgive? What's the definition of that? So to forgive, it's a verb, which means stop feeling anger or resentful towards, for an offense, flaw, or mistake. That might seem easy enough. We can be like, yeah, Bia, of course we knew that's what to forgive means. But there's something really important that it's to stop feeling anger or resentment towards. So if you forgive someone just haphazardly, they say you're sorry and you say it's fine, if it's not fine, if it's still bothering you, if it's still in your thoughts all the time, then maybe you didn't truly forgive them in your heart. Maybe you just said it because we have a tendency to just accept apologies really quickly, but maybe you didn't truly forgive that person. This isn't a bad thing either. It's okay if it takes some time for us to get over something, if it's still too much on us and we can't truly forgive it. And some people, they spend their whole lives trying to forgive someone or something that happened way back in their childhood, and only at the end of their lives, or sometimes they don't even end up forgiving that person or thing. But it's a long process, and it doesn't mean just because the person says they're sorry we have to automatically forgive them. And also, a big thing to always remember is that forgiving doesn't mean forgetting. Just because we've come to peace with it within ourselves, just because we forgive the other person, doesn't mean that we have to forget what happened. We can still remember what happened, but like the definition said, we have stopped feeling anger about it. Maybe we look back and we can still think about it, but we can see it as something we can learn from, or just a simple mistake. We don't feel anger or sadness or resentment towards that event when we look at it. It's very easy to not forgive someone. It's very easy to get mad in the first place, especially us teens when our hormones are all flying all over the place. It's very easy for a little thing to just set us off, and then we get mad about it and hold a grudge. Maybe someone doesn't follow through with what they promised, or maybe someone said they had something and they didn't, or someone said that you can go out and then they changed plans last minute. Whatever it may be, we have to try and get over it and move on, because we can't hold these grudges, because usually when we hold grudges, it's hurting ourselves more than it's hurting the other person we're holding the grudge on. Maybe the other person feels fine and they don't even know that we feel that way, but for us, it's like eating us inside. Holding a grudge against someone or something, it's most likely to hurt ourselves more than it ever affects that other person. Just to get our brains flowing a little bit about the idea of forgiveness and some of the things involved with it, I'd like to read a message from the Gospel According to Spiritism for Young Adults and Beginners, which is an adaptation of the Gospel According to Spiritism by Allan Kardec. And just for us to get the thoughts flowing in our head about forgiveness and about what some people have to say about it. Forgive others so that God may forgive you. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Matthew chapter 5. For if you forgive men when they sin against you, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if you do not forgive men their sins, your Father will not forgive you of your sins. Matthew chapter 6. If your brother sins against you, go and show him his faults, just between the two of you. If he listens to you, you have won your brother over. Then Peter came to Jesus and asked, Lord, how many times shall I forgive my brother when he sins against me? Up to 7 times? Jesus answered, I tell you not 7 times, but 77 times. Matthew chapter 18. There's also a little explanation paragraph that I like to read so that we can better understand what was just said. Mercy is the forgetting and forgiving of sins. These attitudes are characteristics of evolved souls, and Jesus recommends that mercy should have no boundaries when he says to forgive 70 times 7. But there are 2 ways to forgive. The first is true, generous, gentle, and avoids hurting the self-esteem of the opponent. The second imposes conditions for forgiveness. In the latter case, there is no generosity, but only a way to satisfy the pride of one who is said offended. The one who acts in a more conciliatory and disinterested way has more greatness in soul and always wins the sympathy of people. This message shows us many important things that we have to keep in mind. One is that the first sentence of the whole thing, blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. This is showing us how if we want people to forgive us, how come we don't forgive other people? It's like that saying that everyone says, treat others the way you want to be treated. It's the same applies for forgiveness. If you want to be forgiven when you make a mistake or you make an error or you forget something for someone, whatever it may be, you want that person to forgive you. So how come when that person does the same mistake but towards you, you don't forgive them? And also, that's in a way how God will look at it. Not that he won't forgive us, but he will forgive us when we learn to forgive others as well. Because forgiveness isn't just a one-way street, because none of us are perfect, so we make mistakes too, and we're forgiven too, so we have to forgive other people as well. Of course, we shouldn't just say we forgive them if we don't, we should truly mean it, but we should work on being able to let go of that grudge and being able to truly mean that forgiveness so that other people can do that to us too. Another very important part of this passage is when Peter asked Jesus, how many times should we forgive one person for the same thing? And he says up to 7 times, and Jesus says, no, 77 times. And Jesus doesn't mean really count 77 times, and then, on the 78th time, that's it, you can't forgive that person anymore. That's not what he meant. He means that as a big number, as an infinite amount, that you should never stop forgiving someone for something that they're doing because it's something that they're learning. And if you can talk to them and be nice with them, as the explanation paragraph was saying, that we can't just be mean to them and trying to hurt their self-esteem and saying, no, you did this wrong. We should be sincere and just try and talk it out with that person. Tell them, oh, I feel upset because you did this. And try and work it out so that neither of you are upset, but the person gets the message across and that they can fix it. And that also that you can feel better within yourself. Because if you keep that stuff boiling inside of you, it's going to hurt you much more than it's going to hurt that person. Another very interesting point that Jesus makes in this is when he said, if your brother sins against you, go and show his faults, but just between the 2 of you. And that's really important because sometimes when someone does something wrong, we're really quick to just point fingers and go gossip and tell our other friend and tell this person, oh, you want to know what they did? Or especially think about a celebrity. A celebrity trips down the stairs, they make a small mistake, and it's all over everything. We have to share it with everyone, gossip about everything. And even on a lesser scale, think about in school, or I'm sure even in your job, someone does one little thing, and then all of a sudden everyone starts whispering and everyone knows about it. But that's what he's saying not to do. He's saying that if someone does something towards you, you should go and you should talk to them. And the way we were saying before, not meanly, but to get them to understand and to make both of you feel better about the situation. But just between the two of you. You don't have to go sharing it around. You don't have to tell everyone just because you're right and the person's wrong, because there's going to be a time when the other person's right and you're wrong, and you don't want those rumors going around about you. One thing I'd like to clear up what they said is that they said mercy is the forgetting and forgiving of sins. And this is true to one aspect, because before we were saying how forgiving is not forgetting. But in this way it's saying it's like forgetting about the sins. It's more forgetting about like the punishment of, oh, you did something bad. But it's not forgetting about the event, because that event is something that did happen to you and you can't go back and change that. But you have to reflect on it and move forward with your life, but you have to learn from that mistake. So we want to forget that bad feeling of, oh, I did something wrong, oh, they're going to like punish me. But we shouldn't forget what actually happened so that we can learn from it. There's some cases where we think that we can never forgive that person again, that they just did something so horrible, how can we forgive that? But it's important for us to forgive, even if it's such a horrible experience. And that doesn't mean we have to go ahead and love them and be their best friend. We still, you don't want to talk to that person exactly, maybe you want to go make a new group of friends, that's one thing, but we shouldn't hold anger towards them. Think about a mother who just had their child lost in a car accident, or someone who was abused in their childhood. These are very traumatic experiences, but at some point, if you research these cases, some people they don't forgive. But later in their lives, they realize that they have to forgive this person so that they can move on with their life. It doesn't mean they're going to go and become best friends with the person who happened to accidentally kill their child or did something horrible to them. But forgiving is more about moving on and letting go of that bad feeling that you have boiling up inside of you and just letting that go. And it's not going to be quick, especially for cases like that. It's going to take years and years, and it's not going to be something that they're just going to be, oh, I'm sorry, and you're going to say it's fine, because it's not always fine, and it's okay to not be okay, but we have to eventually be okay, eventually get out of it. And when you think like, I can't imagine ever forgiving that person, how could I? But once you do, once you truly just let go of that anger inside of you, you'll feel much better than all of that boiling up inside of you. You'd be surprised to know, and I was surprised too when I found out when I was researching this, that there's actually many negative effects to holding a grudge on someone else. And sometimes us teens, we don't think about that because, any little thing can just get us mad at the snap of fingers, and we're just holding a grudge towards that person, and sometimes it even lasts a while until we finally just forget about it and realize that it was silly in the first place. But there's actually a lot of negative effects to holding a grudge on something like that and not forgiving. One thing I found out is that holding a grudge towards someone can bring anger and bitterness into every new relationship or new experience. So if you're holding on to a grudge that someone did to you, say, oh my god, let's be a really simple case. Once I lent someone my pencil and they broke it, and I could never use that pencil, and it was my favorite pencil. Something as silly as that, we hold on to that grudge, and then we realize that in a new experience, in a new relationship, we won't give a person a pencil because of that one experience that we're still holding on to so tightly and so negatively. And of course, that's just a very simple example, but think about how many people do that. How many people, over little things, they lost a pencil once to someone, they're never going to lend it again. Or if you're a girl, think about hair ties. We lend a hair tie to someone, hair ties just disappear. They get up on their feet and walk away because you always seem to be running out of hair ties. But if you lend it to someone and they don't give it back to you, it's just like, it's not a big deal. It's just a hair tie, right? Well, that's like a lot of our problems. We like have a little thing and it's like they took our hair tie and we get very annoyed at it and hold a grudge towards them. But in reality, it's just something so little that if we forgive them, we'll just feel so much better on the inside. Another negative effect to holding a grudge is that you become so consumed and wrapped up in this wrongdoing that happened that you can't live in the moment. You can't think about what's happening now, what's happening good, because you just keep thinking about that one thing that annoyed you way back when in the first grade or something, and it's just always on your mind and it's not letting you enjoy what's currently in front of you. Say, for example, you did really bad on a math test in third grade. In third grade math test, that's not really going to count for anything. But to us, it was a really big deal that we did so bad on that and we holding a grudge towards the teacher because he think he wasn't fair. But now, if we just concentrate on now, we're doing so good in math class, you're acing the classes, and you're still holding on to that negativity that you can't focus on the good that's right in front of you, that the grades that you're getting in high school, you're doing good, and those are the grades that are actually going to count, not the third grade test you took once upon a time. Holding a grudge, especially for a long time, and something that was really a really big wrongdoing to you, it can actually lead to very serious problems like depression or anxiety, because just that one event is just bringing you down so much that your mental health status also goes down with you. And it makes you feel as if nothing else is good around you when there's so many more things if you just stop focusing on that little wrongdoing. You also, when you're holding a grudge towards someone, you like lose value and the connection you have with other people because you're so caught up in that. Sometimes you act crabby or you act mean just because you're holding a grudge on one thing and it's just so tense inside of you that you can't seem to talk to anyone anymore. I'd like to read a little message from my daily book of positive quotes, and this one's called Staying Angry. Holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intention of throwing it at someone, but you are the one who gets burned. People who hold grudges, who never stop talking about those who have wronged them, let their anger rule their lives. Those they're angry at may not even care or be aware of the grudge. But our anger is justified, we argue. Maybe, but does this justify the self-damage inflicted by holding on to and nursing the hurt? How many times must we bore our friends with another recounting of the injustice we suffered? How much longer must we let our anger sour our outlook on life? It's normal to get angry sometimes, but I'll do whatever I need to let my anger go and move on with my life. This message sums up what we were talking about how being angry and keeping that inside you can really negatively impact you if you keep it in there too long, and it's better for you if you just let go of it, because you holding that inside of you isn't going to help the other person, and it's not even going to hurt the other person as you think it will. It's just going to hurt you instead. That quote in the beginning, which is by Buddha, by the way, it's really impacting and really shows you exactly how we think about this so distortedly, but when we really look at it from clear eyes, we can see that we're the one that's being hurt, not anyone else. Holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intention of throwing it at someone else, but you're the one who gets burned. So think about that. We think that holding the grudge, we're going to get that person with the hot coal, we're going to throw it at them and it's going to hurt them. But when we pick up that hot coal to throw it, it just stays in our hand and it burns and it burns, and then we're the one that gets burned. Not the other person. The other person's fine, safe, they're not burned at all, but we're here suffering holding this hot coal just because we wanted to throw it at someone else. And that's a really good way to look about it when we keep this grudge boiling inside of us while the other person may not even know it's a thing. They might not even remember the event that it happened. You'll be happy to know, though, that there are many benefits to forgiving someone and to letting go of that grudge. One is that it can give you healthier relationships, that once you forgive someone, like we were saying before, how if you keep that grudge, it can ruin relationships. Well, if you forgive that grudge, it'll help you, because it'll help you make new relationships, and it'll make you new friends, because little things you'll realize, oh, that happened to me before, and it's okay, it wasn't a big deal, I can forgive that easily. Or even the person who you were holding that grudge against, maybe you realize that it was just a simple mistake and that you really can be friends and get over it. It can help your spiritual and psychological well-being. Just by forgiving someone, it can just help you have a better mentality and feel better about yourself. Just feel more alive, more active. And that's really what we need, especially when we wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, tired to go to school. The last thing we want is another negativity bringing us down. The more happy and lively we can feel, the easier it will be to get through all these challenges we face. As teens, I know we get really anxious over tests and stressed over homework and presentations and work and internships and all that may be coming around. Maybe less now because of the summer, or maybe more now because we have all state tests and SATs and trying to get stuff in. But forgiving someone, it can help us become less stressed and less anxious, because when we have all this stuff piling up, the last thing we need is to have an angry grudge boiling inside of us on top of all that. If we can get rid of that grudge we're having, of that negative feeling, that's already one thing that we've accomplished to make us feel better, and then we can go towards accomplishing the tests and studying and whatever it may be. You'll also be very surprised to know that there's many physical benefits to forgiving someone and letting go of that grudge. You can have lower blood pressure, fewer symptoms of depression, you can have an improved heart system, you can have a stronger immune system. So all these things, they can add up just to help you live longer, just to keep you healthier and keep you in shape. And being in shape also keeps you feeling more active and more able to do things and having more energy in your lives to get through everything. It's easy to get upset or confused about something, so we hold this grudge and we can't forgive people properly, or even if we say we forgive them, we don't really. We still feel a little bit of negativity and sadness inside of us. But if we truly forgive someone, that's going to be the ultimate happiness for you. It's going to be a weight off your shoulders, and you're going to feel better about yourself. It doesn't matter how the other person feels, but it's not about forgiving that other person just to make them feel better. It's about letting yourself feel better, letting you feel good about yourself and not having that negativity in your life. But then, how do we truly forgive someone? How do we reach that state of forgiveness? Well, when I was researching it, I found a couple things to keep in mind so you can really realize if you're truly forgiving someone or you're just saying it. One thing is that when you building this grudge inside of you, starting to feel this anger inside of you, you should consider the values of forgiveness. Consider the things we talked about today. Think about, is this worth all this stress and negativity that's going to come with it? And that I may think it's going to hurt the other person, but it won't even do that. Maybe we should realize that it's only going to hurt ourselves, and that forgiving that person would be beneficial for everyone. Another thing is to reflect on the situation and think about it. Was it really worth getting so mad about? Was it really something to be too upset about? Maybe we were upset about it, but is it a forgivable thing? Because everything is forgivable, because God can forgive us and can forgive everyone for their mistakes. Of course, we have to learn from our mistakes, but every one of us will learn. Another thing is to actively choose and realize that you're forgiving the person who offended you when you're ready. That doesn't mean you have to rush into it. It doesn't have to mean that if they say sorry 1 second after, you just say it's okay and move on. You can take your time to think about it, and it's okay to not be okay all the time. It's okay to be upset about something and just want to think about it a little bit before you can just let go of it. But the important part is that you realize that you're forgiving them and that you don't want to be angry or sad anymore. And this realization, if you say it out loud or if you just make a mental note of it, it will help you to truly be able to forgive that person. And another important thing to do is to move away from being the victim in that situation into realizing, oh, okay, that happens. Let me see why it happens on both sides of the point of views, and let me learn from that experience and maybe talk to the person, oh, I didn't like this, or oh, maybe I was wrong about something. But to realize that you're not the victim, to move away from that victim that you've been, that someone did something wrong directly to you, to move away from that victim and look at it maybe from an outside perspective of you having control of the situation and that there was many factors involved and you weren't just the person being victimized for no reason. Of course, not everything is as easy to forget as some things are. Like someone breaking your pencil, that's easier to forgive than a death in your family or something of that sort. But in the end, we should really try to forgive because that there's a reason for everything that happens, and even if we can't understand that now, we should learn to forgive those people so that we can move on and that we can all learn from that situation to help prevent it in the future. And also today we were talking a lot about you being the victim, like saying you were the person that had the wrongdoing. But remember, sometimes you're the one that owes the apology, that you're the one that did something wrong, and that the same applies, that we should learn from that and realize that what we did wasn't right and we should apologize to that person. Or even if we believe in it, we should, in what we did, we should talk to that person and talk it out and understand both sides. And again, look at it from a distant perspective, not as who did wrong or right, but as a whole, what you can do to improve, to fix it. I'd like to end off with a little message. It's just a little tiny thing, and it's called Let Peace Start With You. And this could be a whole different topic we talk about peace within ourselves. But just this little part was interesting. We can be quick to say, I'm sorry. Genuine peace cannot exist where grudges are held and past offenses aren't forgiven. If you know you've wronged someone, or if you know someone who feels wronged by you, talk to that person. Find out exactly what the problem is. If you see that you're at fault, even a little, admit it and ask for forgiveness. The only thing you have to lose is a little pride. The potential for gain, on the other hand, is tremendous. Sometimes, maybe sometimes it's mid-argument and you realize that you're the one that's wrong, and even though you don't want to give up that argument because you were supporting it, it's okay to step back and be like, you know what, I realize that I'm wrong, I'm sorry, and maybe that person won't forgive you on the first time, like we were saying, but, if you keep trying and let them have their time and talk to them so that you both can move on and learn something from that experience, and you can look back on it, not in a negative way, but in a moment that you can learn from. So I hope you guys all learned something today. Hopefully you can take away one thing and try and forgive one more thing this week, because we're obviously not going to just come out perfect and forgive everything in the blink of an eye. But if we can forgive one more little thing this week, that would be awesome. Keep remembering that blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. That you should treat others the way you want to be treated. So think about that in your daily lives, in school and work, in your internship, at home, wherever it may be. Think about treating other people the way you want to be treated, even though that's very cliche, it's true. If you have any future ideas, comments, suggestions, questions, anything, feel free to contact me at kardecradioforteens@gmail.com. Radio for Teens. Thank you all for listening.